This is CBN NewsWatch.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm George Thomas, in for my colleague Ephraim Graham. Well, the United States and Mexico have reached an historic trade deal, revising the North American Free Trade Agreement. Gary Lane is following the story. Gary, what's the latest?
Well, the deal is expected to benefit both countries, but Canada, one of America's top trading partners, was absent from the agreement, George. President Trump said negotiations to bring Canada into the new deal should start soon.
If they'd like to negotiate fairly, we'll do that. You know, they have tariffs of almost 300% on some of our dairy products, so we can't have that. We're not going to stand for that. I think with Canada, frankly, the easiest thing we can do is to tariff their cars coming in.
Gary, the stock market responded favorably to this deal. What is in this deal?
Well, George, to begin with, it's good news for farmers because zero tariffs, no taxes at all on imports and exports of agricultural products. Also for automobile manufacturers. The parts of cars sold in the United States, 75% of those parts have to be manufactured in the United States or Mexico. Also for the workers, good news, 40 to 45% of the parts have to be manufactured by employees making $16 or more per hour, George.
Gary, what are economists saying about this agreement and Trump's tariff policy?
Well, I think economists are saying this is a victory for Donald Trump. He promised a new North American Free Trade Agreement, and this is it, at least with Mexico. Canada's up next. But what they're saying, look, Mr. President, you don't like the 300% tariffs on dairy products that Canada puts on U.S. dairy products. Don't respond by adding tariffs on automobiles, because you'll end up in a trade war, not only with Canada, but also we're already seeing the beginnings of that with China. This is not good for an economy that's already booming.
Yeah. Speaking of the economy that is booming, it is booming, as you mentioned, but the president has expressed some concerns about the Federal Reserve, and are they?
Well, the Federal Reserve has been raising interest rates, and the president says, no, why are you doing that? The economy's going great. This will only slow things down. The Fed says, well, we're concerned about rising inflation, but so far we haven't seen the rising inflation.
Yeah. You often examine economic and work-related issues on your weekly program, the
Yes.
Global Lane, correct?
Yes. And this week, George, we're going to take a look at rising gas prices and oil prices, what to expect at the pump and on Labor Day and in the days ahead. And that's at 5:30 p.m. starting on Thursday, the Global Lane.
Okay, terrific. As always, sir, thank you for
George.
coming on the show. Okay, here's a look at some of the other major headlines we're following in the CBN newsroom today. A California church is mourning after their pastor committed suicide over the weekend. Inland Hills Church led Pastor Andrew Stockland died Saturday after taking his own life. His wife shared the devastating loss on Instagram, saying her husband struggled with depression and anxiety. She also encouraged anyone suffering from suicidal thoughts to get help immediately. Pastor Andrew left behind his wife and their 3 young children. Pray for the family. The suspect in a deadly shooting at a Florida video game tournament had previously been hospitalized for mental illness. Court records show 24-year-old David Katz was hospitalized twice in psychiatric facilities as a teenager. Records also show he was prescribed antipsychotic and antidepressant medications. Katz killed 2 people and wounded 9 others Sunday before fatally shooting himself in Jacksonville, Florida. Police say the weapons he used in the shooting were purchased legally 2 weeks ago from a licensed dealer near his home in Baltimore. President Trump spoke Monday evening at a White House event, making his first public comment about Senator John McCain since he died Saturday from brain cancer. At the White House dinner for evangelical leaders, Trump expressed condolences and offered prayers to McCain's family. Trump also said he appreciates everything the late senator has done for the country. The remarks came after the president repeatedly ignored reporter questions for a comment. By the way, the White House is also receiving heavy criticism for raising its flag to full staff Monday morning. They returned the flag to half staff again Monday afternoon to honor McCain. For more on these and other stories, visit cbnnews.com. In North Carolina, a scramble to draw a new congressional map just months before Election Day is causing a lot of controversy. A federal court struck down the map Monday due to gerrymandering the court says favored Republican candidates. The court has appointed a special master to draw a new map and may also give the state legislature a chance to redraw the lines. Both parties have already held primaries, which has candidates scrambling to find out how the new district lines will affect them. It seems Christians are also drawing political lines. A new study from Lifeway Research shows 57% of Protestants under 50 say they prefer going to church, get this, with people who share their political views. Interestingly, the study also shows older Protestants, those over 50, are less concerned about the political affiliations of the people beside them. Coming up, where ancient artifacts that link King Hezekiah and the prophet Isaiah can be found. And welcome back to CBN News. The United States is cutting more than $200 million in aid to the Palestinian Authority. In notifying Congress, the State Department said it would redirect the money to, quote, high-priority projects elsewhere. The decision comes after a review of U.S. assistance to the Palestinian Authority. The funding had been in question for years due to the controversial policy known as pay to slay, a compensation plan for Palestinians who attack Israelis. The Taylor Force Act, which targeted that policy and threatens U.S. aid, was made law earlier this year. About a 3-hour drive from Jerusalem, thousands of years ago, King Hezekiah and the prophet Isaiah used to work together. Now, thanks to archaeology, they're together again. And in all of places, Oklahoma, personal seals that likely belonged to them are on display together for the first time. Take a look.
What connected the two men is an exhibit of their personal impressions that would have been used to seal documents. A simulcast linking Jerusalem with Oklahoma's Armstrong Auditorium marked the debut.
This is a celebration day for all our friends and especially for the lovers of Israel and the Bible.
Archaeologist Dr. Eilat Mazar helped uncover the artifacts in 2009.
This is one of the bullae that we found. It's a seal impression. Very tiny, as large as you can see it now, but this is only 1 centimeter in diameter, even not the nail on my finger.
Workers uncovered both items just a few feet apart here at the foot of the Temple Mount. Historically, it's been called the Ophel, meaning a high place to climb to. King Hezekiah, considered one of Judea's greatest leaders, and the prophet Isaiah lived some 2,700 years ago.
When people wanted at that time, biblical times, to seal a document, they used, they tied the document with the strings and then they took a little tiny mud and pushed their private seal to the soft mud and made a seal impression which contained, and you could read their names.
Hezekiah's reads, belonging to Hezekiah, son of Ahaz, king of Judah.
To find such a private item that relates to one of the Judean kings, we came so close to that kind of figure.
Isaiah's isn't as clear. It reads belonging to Isaiah, but the second word is missing a letter that could complete the Hebrew word for prophet.
Whenever you find discoveries like this, actual physical items that people can touch, and they have inscribed on them the names of biblical figures, it's always powerful. This is science proving the Bible.
Mazar's grandfather, Benjamin Mazar, led the first excavation after the 1967 Six-Day War that reunited Jerusalem.
My grandfather excavated 10 continuous years without stopping. This was a fantastic project. Almost no parallel in dimensions. Hundreds of people worked. They revealed fantastic remains of ancient Jerusalem from all periods.
We've had a partnership with Dr. Eilat Mazar since 2006, but our relationship with the Mazar family actually goes back to 1968, when her grandfather worked with the namesake of our college, Herbert W. Armstrong. So since that time, we've sent students to volunteer on the excavations, and we've also provided funding for some of her work.
Dr. Michael Oren, Israel's Minister of Diplomacy, calls Eilat Mazar a hero.
She has fought for Israel's future by fighting for its past, and against the face of a lot of naysayers, and particularly people in the world today who deny a historical connection between Israel and the city of Jerusalem, people who deny there ever was a King David or a King Hezekiah or a prophet Isaiah. Eilat digs down and she finds it and she proves them all wrong.
10 years ago, while digging in the city of David, Mazar believes she discovered King David's palace.
Its monumentality is obvious. Everybody can see. Also, its date, been constructed sometime around 1000 BC, the time of King David in general, based on the pottery that we found underneath and within. These facts brought us to understand that we've got fantastic monumental construction.
While many archaeologists dismiss the Bible, Mazar maintains it to be an important historical source.
The biblical stories and the New Testament story, by the way, it goes together because they just prove quite accurately the development of Jerusalem, and the way Jerusalem is described is quite accurate.
The Oklahoma exhibit contains other artifacts, including a life-size replica of Hezekiah's underground water tunnel. Oren believes the significance of these pieces goes way beyond science.
Archaeology is not just about revealing the past. Archaeology is about securing our present. Archaeology is about ensuring our future. Archaeology is about richness, it's about rootedness, and as Eilat Mazar will tell you, it's about truth.
Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Still ahead, coding for the kingdom. Meet the Silicon Valley techs who are bringing their innovation and expertise to church. And welcome back to CBN News. Some of the most powerful players in the tech industry are using the best of their skills for the thing they are most passionate about, the gospel. As my colleague Caitlin Burke reports, much of Silicon Valley's most important new innovation is being funneled straight into the church.
Silicon Valley is home to some of the most brilliant minds in technology and innovation. Their skills are put to work at places like Apple, Google, and Facebook. A win for their companies, but a loss for the church. As a minister at Menlo Park Presbyterian, Kevin Kim watched Bay Area churches miss countless opportunities to learn from those filling their pews.
Within the 3,000 people that are sitting in our pews, there's so much human capital. There's so much potential. We have leaders in politics, leaders in government, leaders in medicine, leaders in technology, leaders in finance. But then when you try to take a look at, all right, how are we deploying these people? We're asking them to, lead a VBS or usher people to their seats.
That realization led him to learn more about people's gifts and how they could help bring innovation to the church.
The church needs to be more creative, needs to be more disruptive. I mean, God deserves the best of our imagination.
Out of that way of thinking came Code for the Kingdom, a modern-day idea session or hackathon. Kevin's friend Neil Alston, a Google business development manager, helped him get it started.
A hackathon is one of the most common events here, and the idea is you get together for a weekend and you solve a problem, and you solve it by hacking, which means not creating something that's awesome and permanent, but it answers a question.
Our first one, we brought in 250 of our friends who were designers and developers at these major tech companies. Friday night, you come in, you meet everybody, and then you pose these big innovation challenges in front of them. So you say, here's the orphan problem in the world, and here's global poverty, and here's anti-human trafficking, and here's evangelism. So we had all these kind of big innovation challenges, and then we cast it out to the 250 people. We said, what ideas, what platforms, what technology would you create to move the dial on this? The ideas and the product that they came up with, they were pretty amazing. In fact, so much so that this leader of a major Christian tech company who happened to be there, wanted to check it out, he said, what you guys did in a weekend, my guys couldn't do in 6 months.
Kevin, Neil, and their friends hosted these events for 5 more years. During that time, they came up with thousands of ideas, but noticed they were beginning to lose momentum because of a disconnect in getting those ideas to market.
It's really hard to sustain the kind of projects that are going to make a difference and an impact, and that's something that both Kevin and I have worked very hard at, is making sure that it continues to live on.
Neil did that by going out on his own and launching the faith-based tech company called Carpenter's Code.
I was never intending to leave Google when I was working on the hackathons. I thought I could mentor people and be an advisor and let them leave and go do it. And then I got called into doing it. So I think that was a course correction that I wasn't expecting.
Carpenter's Code developed a prayer app called Abide.
Abide gives you guided audio meditations, and they vary from 2 minutes to about 15 minutes. They're all focused back on Scripture. So we take a verse in the Bible and a topic around that, and then really just take you through a process of reflection.
Meanwhile, Kevin Kim took what he had learned and started his own company focused on missional tech work. It's called Basil Technologies.
The idea is that God would fill us as technologists, developers, and designers with His Holy Spirit to do His work. And so our focus was product development. So we didn't want to be all about ideas and like, hey, what about this, what about this? We were like, we will do fewer ideas, we will work more closely with these ministries and nonprofits, and then we will develop product.
Every Monday night, a group of Christian volunteers from some of the top tech companies in Silicon Valley come together to talk about some of the problems that Christian organizations are having. They then harness their combined innovation, creativity, and expertise to figure out not only the solution to the problem, but how to implement it. One of Basil's current projects is a partnership with the International Justice Mission.
We had IGM come in and we did a brainstorm with them, which was led by one of our team members who's an expert in design thinking. And so in this brainstorm session, we discovered from International Justice Mission that these perpetrators of human trafficking were using technologies for their evil purposes. And so a lot of our people who work in tech, they were like, man, that can't happen. And so we want to do something about it.
The team hopes that by making major tech companies aware, they can come up with effective solutions together. At only about a year old, Basil has plans to eventually expand. For now, however, they plan to fine-tune their process and slowly spread the word by putting some of tech's best and brightest to work for the kingdom. Caitlin Burke, CBN News, San Francisco, California.
President Trump hosted a dinner of evangelical leaders at the White House Monday night. It's there he talked about religious liberty, but also the passing of Senator John McCain. CBN's White House correspondent Ben Kennedy has the details from the North Lawn.
It was nothing short of a state dinner here at the White House, only the president wasn't honoring a foreign head of state, but evangelical leaders.
America is a nation of believers, and tonight we're joined by faith leaders from across the country.
Faith leaders like Reverend Franklin Graham and Pastor Paula White. The president also took a moment to publicly express thanks for Senator John McCain's service to America.
Our hearts and prayers are going to the family of Senator John McCain. Going to be a lot of activity over the next number of days, and we very much appreciate everything that Senator McCain has done for our country.
Trump then turned to the dinner's purpose, honoring America's faith and freedom.
In recent years, the government tried to undermine religious freedom, but the attacks on communities of faith are over. We've ended it.
The commander-in-chief drummed up applause, highlighting efforts to combat religious persecution.
We brought home hostages from North Korea, including an American pastor, and we're fighting to release Pastor Brunson from Turkey, and we've made great progress.
Trump told the evangelical leaders it's imperative that people of faith vote in the midterms so that progress can continue.
They're facing the possibility of a Democrat Congress that, if they take control of the legislature, are going to either impeach this president from office or at least paralyze him while he's in office. And I think they rightly know evangelicals don't want either one of those things to happen.
Christians helped propel Trump into office in 2016, and this was one way of showing his appreciation for their contribution to American society, and also pledging to protect their rights so that work can continue.
The president just wanted to celebrate, and not just that, but what our churches and houses of worship do every day.
to provide spiritual direction to the lost, to heal the brokenhearted, to save marriages and lives. That goes on every day in America.
The support you've given me has been incredible, but I really don't feel guilty because I have given you a lot back.
Faith leaders told CBN News the dinner was the President and First Lady's idea. Yes, it was a time to say thank you, but also that the work is not done. Ben Kennedy, CBN News, the White House.
Thank you, Ben. You can find more of our exclusive coverage of the issues you care most about at cbnnews.com. From all of us here at CBN News, have a fantastic day.